That wouldn't stop. It was obviously the wrong intro, and it would not stop. Very obviously the wrong intro. We're going to do it again. Here we go. Now we've got a show. Good morning. It is Colin and Noah, and we're back for Competitive Advantage Episode 2. Noah, it is 7 o'clock in the morning. How you vibing over there?
I feel freaking great today.
Do you?
I do.
We don't need to talk about it, but you've had a weird week as a human being, not as a 40K player.
Yeah, I've accepted that in the current universe that like whatever timeline we're in, my week is always going to be weird, and we're just going to figure it out. It's like when you're playing 40K. Sometimes you roll ones, you figure it out.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. So this is exciting. This is the week where I start bringing pre-made content for us to talk about, and later I'm sure you'll do the same. So this week we're going to talk about how MCP and Kill Team made me a better 40K player. There's some really key decision-making tools that I knew I had, but I didn't know how to articulate or how to use correctly. And those games helped me with it. So we're going to talk about kind of the 4 ways that I kind of evolved through 40K decision-making to get to the point I'm at now. But before we do that, we're going to do our normal thing of sharing with you guys what's happened this week. So first up, we talk about 40K hobby update. What did you do in the last 7 days 40K related, Noah? Did you play it? Did you hobby?
I have done a lot of hobby. So I been working on a Primaris Soul Drinkers counts as Emperor's Champions kit bashed army. And so I've got that pretty far along. I'm going to pause there on it though. And then yesterday I went back to my orcs because I'm playing them at Wet Coast in the next few weeks. And so I'm trying to get them leveled up to make sure that I have a good shot at best overall. So I'm going through and doing black panel lining on 154 orcs. EA cell shading, I guess, is what it's called. So I'm currently working through that. I'm doing 1 unit at a time, just doing the cell shading and then doing all the additional like little lights and glows and bibs and bobs to level them up. And the hope is in the next few weeks, since I have a bunch of extra free time, Colin, that I will get to the point that feel pretty comfortable with for a shot at the title, because there's 3 golden coast and I want one.
There you go. Stephanie, when she first started painting 40K models, she took some commission gigs, and one of the ones she took was to paint the detail on 90 boys. And I told her, this is going to be terrible. You're not going to like this. And she's like, how bad could it be? It's 90 of the same dude. I'll just do the detail. And I said, these dudes have detail. Like, orc boys are not messing around. They are not guardsmen. They have a lot going on them. If you like, they've got straps and skin everywhere and multiple kinds of cloth. It's for real. So I am not surprised that if going for best overall, it's not the easiest task.
Yeah, but I wanted to take something different, maybe, which maybe we'll talk about later. But I can't bring myself to take anything given the my specific goals. Can't bring myself to take anything else given the current meta, which I think we'll probably talk about. Yeah,
probably. I don't think I did anything model and hobby wise. However, I made a whole lot of 40K content, so that's fine. So we started this last week as kind of a soft launch, but this is the official week. This is the week that everything starts. So yesterday, no, that's not right. Monday night. Oh, Noah's gone. Bye, Noah. Monday night, we did our first episode of the Rogue Trader RPG that we're performing for everybody. That was, here, Noah's back. We'll add Noah back. Welcome back, Noah.
I'm having a weird week.
Did you click the wrong button? I thought you might have. Yeah. So on Monday, we did the first episode of our Rogue Trader RPG that we're calling Master 40K Theater. It was hilarious. I had a great time. We're using models and dioramas to try to bring some visual to the game. We did a little bit of that kind of as a prototype. The big first episode of the story is next Monday. There will be 8 episodes from there. We've added some people. It's going to be, I'm sourcing models and dioramas this week so we can have some great settings. That's been really fun. And then yesterday I taught myself how to use tools to make viral marketing things out of the content I've made. So I made a 90-second funny thing from the RPG and I put it out on all of our socials and YouTube and everything. I had never done that before, and it's an important part of the stuff going forward. So I taught myself that, which was really fun. I hadn't learned a new piece of technology in a long time now. Like, that used to be the jam for me, right? 10 years ago at work, I'd be like, learn this, learn this, learn this. Now I'm like, oh, someone taught me ChatGPT and it just knows everything. But in this particular case, it was really, really, really great to learn something new. So I'm going to try to put those out at least every weekday because my understanding from the other content producers is that that's the magic. Like the short form content spewed upon the internet, which is probably not the best way to put it, spewed, but but nonetheless, that's what I've been doing. So then every Wednesday morning we've got this show, and the lot of production that needs to happen on this show yet, waiting for some stuff from Noah and myself so I can make an actual intro and some other things. So that's what's going on with me. And then on Thursday, that's tomorrow, at 7 o'clock Pacific, that's when I launched the big show, Better Human, Better Gamer, which is a name I've used before, but it's important to me that I use the name again, and I'll explain why on the show. But basically, that show is about my quest. I have had wicked bad anxiety and other thing and ADHD that have made my competitive 40K complicated. And I've had some bad experiences. I've had a lot of tournaments where I just don't have fun, even though I love the game. And then when I came back to Comp 40K, I gave an opponent, I did some things on stream on the final game accidentally that were really bad, and I got yellow carded for it. But what happened with that is the people on the internet who knew me from forever ago got spiteful. And so I had to deal with a few days of Colin's a cheater. From that, I learned a lot about who I am and how I play 40K. I really took a lot of time. I talked to my wife about it. I talked to my friends about it. And I've come out of that with a story to tell. Why I'm doing this, why I'm doing all this content, why I'm focusing on 40K versus what I had been doing. But I'm going to tell that story about being called a cheater and what that meant to me and what that means in Comp 40K and how it works. But I'm going to do that with a pretty amazing panel. I'm going to have JT McDowell from Play on Tabletop. I'm going to have Danny McDevitt from Graham After Dark and, more relevant to me, Mob Rules. And then it sounds like we'll have one more guest as well. So just an amazing group to talk about that with. And that'll be at 7 p.m. tomorrow night Pacific. And as always, you can see everything after the fact on our YouTube. All right, Noah, we ready for some content? Looks like we're ready for some content. That'll be our new song. Not really. The good, the bad, and the ugly. The good, Adepticon reveals. Let's look at them. I all set up with the technology here. Oh,
they were pretty cool.
Chrome what's that?
They were pretty cool. Obviously, I don't care that much about like AOS, Necromunda.
No. Yeah, we're just going to talk 40K.
The 40K review is pretty good.
Yeah, so first up, we have Space Wolves. You can see this, right?
Yeah.
Do you see everything on my screen or just this window?
I do. Just the window.
Okay, cool. Multiple monitors.
I watched these live, so I'm already versed.
Okay, that's fine. So this is the Space Wolf box with new Space Wolf models. I have a very unpopular opinion about new Space Marine models. I have to look very close to understand how they're different. I understand these guys are cool. For me, the bad take is they're not enough cool compared to Marines I already have to even really care. But what's your take, Noah? You have every army.
I'm generally a fan of the Primaris build, the Primaris aesthetic by itself. I like.
Well, they're a much better size. They don't look quite so awkward.
And I think generally, like if I saw them without seeing the original Firstborn, I just think they look cool. But I do agree that I think they are moving towards a more like mono appearance across the ranges. And I actually think it's intentional, because I think that by getting close to a standardization, they make it easier for a new player to look at a thing and not feel overwhelmed and feel kind of like, oh, this, I'm used to this. These are things that are, oh, I can just pick this one, and this one is like this, but a little different. I think it's also really efficient for their production process, because I think it lets them reuse some mold components, which we have several kits we don't get anymore because the molds had issues or broke or had problems and were very expensive to replace. So I don't know.
I just wanted to point out, look at this stud. There's a beaky. What? There's a beaky here.
There is a beaky. There are little nods that I really like too.
He's rocking the knife chainsword combo, which I appreciate. I didn't bring a gun to 40K. Is okay.
Okay. Unpopular opinion, maybe. My absolute favorite Marine pose ever is I have put down my guns and I have a knife.
Yeah, I'm done with this.
Because in the lore, like when you're reading the books, when I got into 40K, it was through reading lore. And when they run out of bullets and the superhuman goes to, I have knife. That's a very exciting chapter.
Always the best part. I mean, a little unfair. These are really cool models. The faces are great. This wolf looks very ugly, which I don't appreciate about this wolf, but whatever. So yeah, so Space Wolves. This model's pretty cool.
Priest is cool.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
He's gonna get converted into a lot of stuff.
I think one of my problems is that the individual Marine Codex model lines, and this is kind of the other side of what you were just explaining. I don't want this many Marine models in the game. Which, sorry, Space Wolves. Like, I understand that your army is cool and you want it to be different and flavorful. I don't like that 40% of the game is Space Marine models between CSM and all the different Space Marines. And now we have Blood Angels. Now we have Dark Angels. Now we have Space Wolves. It's fine. It's the theme of the game. But it doesn't feel varied to me when I play against them. Right? Oh, Space Wolves are Space Marines that are running at me. Oh, Blood Angels are Space Marines that are running at me with jump packs. Oh, Ultramarines are going to shoot me and sometimes punch me. Okay, great. So I know an unpopular opinion, but that's how I feel.
Fair. You're not going to be a very big fan of these reveals.
No, it's fair. So we don't need to talk about Crusade in general, but that is a gorgeous looking book. So we'll give them credit for that.
Can we just take a moment? And do you have nostalgia for Armageddon, for like the original Armageddon storylines? Is that something you have deep nostalgia for? Okay. No. Some people are like Commissar Yarrick. Ah!
Well, if Yarrick's involved, then I'm more interested because he is one of my favorite models, and now he's gone, which is
he technically exists. His head is on like Gazgul's base or something.
Yeah, that's effed up. Next up, we've got Codexes. What's next? And this is what if it was all chaos
and all power.
Well, World Eaters are actually fairly different. Like that, when I play against World Eaters, I don't feel like I'm playing against Marines. I don't know about you.
They're just the Marines who shoot far less, run at you far faster, and have brought Giant Daddy with them.
Right, and this guy looks really different. This guy's really cool.
This model is super important, actually. He is the first mounted character who will be able to join both Exalted and regular 8-bound. Oh. And on top of that, he's they already said that he's a freaking beat stick. His equipment there is really important. One is a chain fist. That's how they do the thing. And the other is the lacerator, which is the flat damage 3 weapon. It's important because this is a character who will have more attacks with a flat damage 3 weapon or a chain fist option. Mm-hmm. And he regens 8-bound. He brings them back to the unit. Oh. Yeah, so this is actually really good. This combined with something we'll probably talk about later with the other data sheets is really important for World Eaters.
Okay. And then we've got Death Guard. That's probably my least favorite faction in the whole game. I know I'm being kind of sour, but have Death Guard's rules ever been interesting for their opponent? I don't think ever.
Not for their opponent, but I have always kind of liked I've liked 2 builds of Death Guard for a long time. I've liked Chunky Terminators waddling. Mm-hmm. I'll enjoy that. And I brought you 100 Poxwalkers.
Right. It's fine. It's fine. And a lot of the models are really neat, and they bring some of the best names to the game. I know that Sloppity Bowel Piper is a demon, but still. it's just yeah, it's just, you know, Nurgle typically is slow and durable, which is like my least favorite way of playing 40k. So we're not destined to be friends, Nurgle and I.
Supposedly that sword on that guy's back, this is important. The turbine is a cool thing too, but apparently what they said is that sword on his back is one of the strongest weapons that an infantry model can carry in the game. It's called a Great Plague Blade.
Okay, I'm excited.
We have no idea what it does, but apparently it hits like a Mack truck.
Right.
If it's damaged too, I'm going to set someone on fire.
What do you think of these weird things?
I think they're ugly as I do not. I do. Okay, I think the thought process of having an automaton, not dreadnought, that is ensorcelled and controlled by magic and has cool shooting and that kind of stuff is cool. If you look really close underneath the cowl, like the top part, they have the like classic 40k robot dome head, like the bubble head, like the Danger Will Robinson Castellan Knight head. And it really looks like someone like it's like when Johnny Five got abducted by the gang. He ended up with like a bunch of extra stuff just piled on top of him. That's what this reminds me of, and it's a little too much for me.
Well, there's a lot going on here for me. First of all, I thought it was Karazhan for World of Warcraft. Like there was a lot of like, you're just a video game weird robot thing. Mm-hmm. It doesn't look like a 40k model to me at all.
No,
I will say that its wings are Eldar. Its wings that's just what Eldar has. Those weird.
Well, those are the missile racks. Almost exactly the missile racks from the Terminators.
I understand, but they look silly. So, anyways, now I will give this credit. Games Workshop has a tendency to paint things in terrible color schemes. This model might look amazing with a better paint scheme. Maybe.
I've seen it colorized in like classic thing, and it does look slightly better.
Okay. And T-Suns, an army that is often interesting to play against, but is only ever terrible or overpowered, is my experience with T-Suns.
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, that's our reveals. Then this morning, a thing happened, which Noah's going to tell you about.
This morning, actually, World Eaters got some more love. So, do you want to go to the data sheets, Colin?
Okay, I will try to find them.
It's just under downloads.
Okay.
And 40K.
Oh, great.
Yep. And then let's grab the Goremongers first. Yeah, that's the one I care most about. The other two are good. The other two, though, are just like another 100-point.
I don't think it's sharing. I'll have to fix that.
Okay. So, 3 day sheets came out today. It's really 2 units. So it's the Goremongers, and then the basically like the group of priests from Adeptus Sororitas, and they also got Imperial Agent rules too. Those units have a bunch of cool Miracle Dice efficiency and Scout. But what I'm super stoked about is, for a while, World Eaters struggled because they are a good army, but they can get hemmed in. And they don't have any infiltrators. They only have scouts. So if they lose the role to go first with their scouts, they can really get messed up. However, we got infiltrators. So we got these corn cultists who have chopped off their legs and added the running legs from the little backbent paperclip running legs. We've added these. And we also we've
brought an axe that is 50% the size of our body, which is always effective.
There is if you look real close, there's a piece of war gear called a gore harpoon, which is very exciting. Blood harpoon, yes.
Oh man, I love sustained hits D3. So random. On one attack, I just love that. It's so crazy. And it has assault on it too. So he can run and throw that harpoon Olympic style.
And then they get a reactive move. So they're a scout with a reactive move, decent melee, especially when buffed by the rest of the army. Yeah. And they're only 85 points, which is technically the same, or just about the same price as a Khorne Berserker, but whatever.
Okay.
It's important.
I love that they're infiltrators, and reactive move can be super cool on a melee unit.
Yeah,
wants to get charged. The only thing is, as a person who has played more games with Rangers than maybe anyone else ever, their reactive move of D6 almost never does anything. Almost never.
Yeah.
Because the problem is that most of the time you're going to roll less than you actually need to do the thing that would make the most sense. But infiltrators for 85 points, I'm all in on that. That's how much scorpions cost if we want to do a direct comparison, but scorpions are crazy. These guys have not very many attacks, but they have lance, so that's cool.
You'll get +1 attack in the charge in the right detachment, and +1 attack +1 strength.
Okay, all right. That would make them more interesting.
I think the D6 is actually important in World Eaters because you can deploy them off of like 1 inch off an objective, and not be subject to like overwhelming force. And then when your opponent moves close, you can move the D6, get that 1 onto the objective, and then when you die, you can sticky the objective for 1 CP with their enhancement. So I do think it's a little more relevant on an 85-point model that you don't care if it gets murdered. And this is going to mean that it is much harder to stop a World Eaters from just bum rushing you if they want to. And I think that's really good.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with all of that. All right. Next up, we've got the Sanctifiers.
Yeah, these guys are weird because they're a 100-point unit that has scouts.
Okay.
Makes them a more expensive scouting unit than the ones that we already have for sisters, which seems weird. I can't see the data sheet, by the way.
Oh.
There we go. However, they do have a bunch of good melee. They are a 9 model unit for that 100 points, so that's okay. They have, if you go to their war gear abilities on the next data sheet, they have the ability to, or it's right here. Never mind. It's on the side there. Yeah, war gear. There you go. Salvation, medkit. They can heal models back. And then they also have the ability to get extra, to regen miracle dice. And then they have an ability up at the front of the card that allows them that once per game when they perform an act of faith, they can get a miracle dice back as well. And then they also get sustained hits 1 while they're being led by a minister. Well, they have a Ministorum priest in the unit still. So like it's a decent melee unit for 100 points. That scouts. That also adds a bunch of miracle dice manipulation to the army, and the army just got buff skin, so it's probably good. I don't know.
They're 11 points a dude. Like 11 points a dude is a ranger. Like that's, I mean, sisters stuff isn't super expensive, but still, that seems like a really good deal for 9 dudes that have good close combat and scout and do a bunch of other tech. Yeah.
I think I think we'll see it on the table. Plus, they're cool models.
Plus, they can make the Rhino Scout, which seems great with this unit.
Yes. The what's that called? The minions used to do it with the immolators. They still do it with the immolators.
Okay. Sanctifiers.
Yeah, we get them for both. We get them for the Imperial agents, and we get them for sisters.
This is the wrong thing. Oh, I see. It's Imperial agents and sisters. They're the same.
Yeah, it's literally the same unit. Just the miracle dice gets replaced with an interaction with the agents of the Imperium.
Okay. Well, I would say all of that is good.
Yeah.
Helping out what are they called? World Eaters, the 8 worlds. And then also helping out sisters who could use a bone. It would be all right. I haven't seen sisters on the table in a long time. I think partially because of what's happened to them.
They just got unnerfed a little bit, which was cool.
Okay.
In the last data slate, when we got DACA, so no one has paid attention. But they did get better in the last data slate. Brendan McWhirp, who I really like, was quoted as saying very exuberantly, "We back, baby." And then he just did very well at a teams event with them. So I think we will start to see them. I think they're still like a higher skill cap army.
Yeah. Well, they're Eldar, right?
Yeah.
They're super fragile. They're super fragile with speed and damage tools that if you use wrong, you get tabled. It's very similar. And they are yet another power armor army, but I forgive them because their models are super different.
It's baby power armor.
They also put candles on things, which we've talked about before. Noah, the open burning candle on people's armor and on tanks and stuff goes into combat. It drives me insane.
Can I tell a story about this?
It's worse than flamers shooting planes down. It's worse than that for me.
Can I tell a story about things being too hot in real life in a military context?
Yes. Yes. Anything that supports my candle shouldn't be on things.
So this isn't a side candle, but having hot things near when you're wearing military equipment, right? Like I was in the Marine Corps, so we'd wear flak jackets. The problem that I don't like about flak jackets and body armor is the neck, even with the little cuff that goes right here, the neck right behind here, because you tend to be leaned forward, is very open. So if you had candles here, the wax would be just running directly down your spine. Because you lean forward and that stiff neck pulls back, which makes a little opening.
Oh,
usually
sure, yeah.
somewhat covered by your helmet, but
like when you don't tuck your shirt in and you lean forward.
yeah, so you could get the wax all the way low. But I was on the range shooting, and we were doing a drill where we would stand beside each other with other Marines, and we shoot and move together in unison with live ammunition. Right, while we're moving up the range shooting at things. My buddy, who I always did stuff with, was significantly taller than me. I'm 6 foot. He's almost 6'6". So his rifle is held closer to the height of my head. And so we are moving along, and suddenly I hear something clatter behind me, and then I can almost very quickly start to smell something, which I find out later is me. What has happened is we've been shooting we've shot like over 100 rounds through these firearms very quickly at this point, and one of the shells of brass is ejected, gone down my shirt.
Oh my gosh!
Right where the spine presses against it, has sat there. I have a scar there today, and started to melt my skin and fuse to my skin, and I could smell myself cooking. But I can't stop, and I can't stop moving, and I can't stop shooting because we're on a live fire range. If I do, I could get shot in the face. So I'm yelling hot brass while I'm walking. Hot brass, hot brass. And I'm just like burning on my spine while trying to shoot this gun. Finally, and someone just reaches in my electric and just pulls it off.
Yeah. Yep.
Which takes an entire piece of me with it. So I don't think hot things should be near human skin in combat scenarios.
Yeah. Well, people are, there's a certain manliness to that story that I appreciate. How about that?
Thank you.
I will tell you that I don't have a lot of family members, but one of my very favorites is my mother's brother, who's married to my father's sister. That's not actually sketchy. It's just the way things worked out. Anyways, my uncle Bruce is a Vietnam War vet, and he was an airplane mechanic, very mechanically minded dude. And there was a bombing. What is it called? Over the course of like multiple days. Sorties. I can't think of the word. Anyways, they were bombing for 48 hours straight, and it was really important. And so he worked basically that whole time. But at some point, other people weren't there anymore because it was too hard, and so he had to start loading these giant missiles and bombs onto the planes himself. And evidently these things are like 500 pounds or whatever, and he's just lifting them and putting them on the plane. And he literally tore all of the muscles through his arms over that 48 hours and was in the hospital for a month. And it's just like, as you do, adrenaline, like it's just, as one does. He's a pretty manly man though. So maybe he's just like, I don't know, my arms hurt a little bit. I don't know. Anyways, okay.
Intense situations, significant tribe, whatever, has created a bunch of really amazing stories that I think are one of the reasons, honestly, why probably a lot of people play war games, is because there is those stories of whatever it happens to be, whether it's your uncle lifting things or somebody shooting bad guys, whatever it happens to be. Those epic stories turn into heroes in our minds, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. Okay, so that's the good. How about the bad? Here's my top ad. DACA and Yanari. Here's what I'm worried about. I was told all last week by my sources, who are usually right. I'd say 90% of the time, if someone tells me this is what's happening on this day, it's right. And I've been told twice now that there's a specific day that DACA is getting nerfed. Okay. One of the times was Sunday, which did not sound right to me at all. I did not believe it. But then the next thing was Tuesday, which we went right by. It was not Super Tuesday. See, Super Tuesday. Never mind. So I think I played against it. I have friends that played against it. Is it unbeatable? No. Is it wildly not okay? 150% it's not okay. it is the best orc detachment by 100 miles, Noah, right? No,
In raw
and
power, I agree.
ignoring that a few people can, that most people can't play Green Tide.
Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily think Green Tide is the best either, but I do think that the DACA is. It has enough raw power to go win a 5-round event without you actually being good at 40K. I believe that is true.
Yeah, I think. Wow, I think that's really well put. I think that for
Not
me,
that doesn't mean talk shit on anyone who's playing it. Like if you're
yeah,
gonna
no,
play
for sure.
play it, right?
Here's the core problem I had when playing against it that I didn't appreciate. Okay, 2 WOG. That's what I wasn't appreciating. So basically, that army can advance and shoot really far because they're orcs, and then charge you because they're orcs. I don't like that. It's not nice. So I played a really good. What's
But
that?
they're the only they get the wall once, but it's like having 2 because they're the only detachment that gets assault when they wall, and then they have 1 CP to make another unit to make a unit wall every turn.
Okay, yeah, right.
Which is the best strat of the game, hands down. I don't care who says otherwise. It is the best strat of the game.
Yeah. Get an invul and advance and charge and assault and right.
And plus 1 attack.
Yeah, that seems great. So I think that deck is not okay. I think it's not okay at every level. Unfortunately, it only got like a 55 or 60% win rate or something last
53%.
weekend,
53%.
which is not impressive. And I don't know what to make of that, but it certainly doesn't help those of us who want it nerfed. Right?
I have an opinion. I feel like some of the best players at Orcs took DACA the week before Adepticon to several events and got their golden tickets and did relatively well. A bunch of them were at the same events, and then many of those people did not go to Adepticon. There were some great work players at Adepticon. Many of them weren't actually on DACA, which was kind of interesting. Only a couple of them made it into the top. I think 3 made it into the top 32. They both lost their matches pretty quickly, and one of them. This is why I know that regardless of the percentage, the DACA is not okay, because Folger Piles, who is currently the best player in the world mathematically, ELO, whatever, right? Folger Piles, current reigning world champion, best player in the world, playing Ynnari, which I believe is currently the best army in the world overall, right?
Maybe
playing Ynnari on a mission that was favored for him, from what I understand, beat DACA, played by someone who I don't recognize the name, but maybe they're a known person, by 1 point. By 1 point. Right. Best player, best army, ideal situation, 1 point. Yep. That to me is absolutely BS.
Well, and the other thing that we forget is that in general, GW does not nerf things because Noah and Colin don't want to see it at the top table at the end of an event. They nerf things because everyone at the event is frustrated by that thing, right? And I can't imagine that that's not where DACA is. But it sounds like what you're saying, Noah, is you think that the Adepticon data really skewed it, that was the majority of the data from the weekend. And so if people that are good orc players didn't go do well at Adepticon, that's going to skew the data. Is that what you're kind of saying?
I kind of think so. I also think the best players in the world who went to Adepticon almost all exclusively teched for DACA and Ynnari.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The most well-known players who were there were not on DACA, like generally, right? So like Folger wasn't on DACA. The guy he played in the last round, who had just done very well at LVO, was on Marines. There were a lot of people on factions that could like stay out of sight and then quickly close distance and blow up transports. I think Marines have a good game if they're played very well into DACA, because you can maybe sacrifice a couple of beats and just put all the transports on the ground, and then hey, now this is much easier to deal with.
Yeah. So I played it last week in WTC, on WTC terrain, and I tried to do that to DMAC and get in front of him, and it did not work, and I got tabled. So like, yes, Noah's right. Also, that's really hard and scary, just so everybody understands.
Yeah, if you fail to do it, you die.
Yeah, I killed all but 2 trucks. I killed 3 trucks on the first turn. That was not enough. Okay, so Ynnari. I don't think Ynnari is the best thing in the game, but I think that Ynnari is the best thing in the game played flawlessly. That's what I think. And I don't think you're going to find someone that's playing it flawlessly. I was thinking about this. I looked back in 10th edition. Tournament-wise, I've played 12 Eldarmirs. I'm 12-0. So I think we can presume that I have some idea how to play Eldar, right?
Mhm.
Some idea. And I am finding that I will make a mistake and it will be wildly punished and I might lose because of it. So I think that Ynnari is definitely doing a tightrope walk. And I think that is actually the problem Ynnari had in 8th edition that stopped it from getting nerfed for so long. In 8th edition, Ynnari was easily the most broken and feel bad thing in the game, but it didn't get nerfed for a long time because it was hard to play. And there was like 6 of us playing it across the whole of the United States. And so that were good. And then there were other people that were flailing at it. And so you get this crazy disparity of win rates that hid the army from getting nerfed until Falcon started doing data and looking at it in ways other than win rate. I'm worried that we're at right now, is that this is a really hard to play army and the tools aren't okay. It feels really bad for your opponent. The main way people give me a good game is to not do their shooting phase. How is that fun for your opponent?
Anytime we've seen a well-known, like expert level, like top 10 player take Ynnari to an event, they have made the finals or gotten very close to it. Right? Like,
yeah,
I think
very powerful.
I think that if it's played by an exceptional player, unless you're bringing something that is like specifically a hard counter, because there are some hard counters to it, right?
Yep.
Unless you're bringing one of the few things that do that, I think they're going to do very well. And then on top of that, I think one of the problems is a bunch of the hard counter lists aren't played very often, and also aren't necessarily piloted by, aren't the favorite of the current best kind of cream of players, right? For instance, the highest performing players aren't really playing Chaos Knights. I think Chaos Knights are good. I think Chaos Knights have a good game of Ynnari. They have a bunch of flawed matchups into other things, so they're not being taken as much.
Right.
One
of the problems with singles versus teams, right?
World Leaders is another one that I think World Leaders isn't necessarily a great matchup in the Ynnari, but I think World Leaders is really good into a bunch of things, but has some bad matchups into specific things, and so it just hasn't shown up as much.
Yeah, this is why I think that Deathwatch won LVO, like legit. And then we didn't see it ever again, and so everybody's like, I thought Deathwatch was really good. Deathwatch is fine. The way that singles works right now in 40K is that you have to roll some. I mean, I'm sure the person who won is an incredible player. I don't want to take anything away from that. That's not fair. It's very hard. It's very hard to win.
A good player, right? Like,
it's very hard to win. Yeah, sure. It's very hard to win 9 or 10 games of 40K in a weekend, regardless of who you are and what you're doing. Sure. Right? It's just hard. So, and this is how I feel about it. Most armies in the game right now, you're rolling some dice to see if you get one of your hard counters. Sorry, that's just what singles is like right now. It's part of why I like the variety in teams better. But let's move on to the next topic. What do you think, Noah?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so I have had very little experience with WTC terrain. Where I live, it is GW terrain for as far as people can fly, almost. Like, it's the whole Western United States does not do WTC terrain, okay? So I have lots of really close friends, John Lennon, Tyler Bortel, these people that I've known forever that play a lot on WTC terrain. In fact, Tyler Bortel said, living in Spain currently, GW terrain is currently dead to me. Okay. So I'm in a virtual team event on WTC terrain, and I got paired into some folks that are WTC 150%. It's all they do. They're from another country. They're trying to get on their WTC team. And we do the pairings process, and I'm supposed to pick tables. And I'm looking at these terrain for these tables, and it is befuddling because in WTC, the difference between table 1 and table 8 is massive. Sparse versus heavy really means something. And I didn't appreciate how much it means. So I tried to pick I threw myself on DACA, which was not a good idea, but the other option was Blood Angels. And so I felt like I at least have crazy tools. Maybe I can play them close. No, I got 20 of, but that's not important right now. So it's actually the worst I've lost in a really long time. We get to the game. I'm super excited. I'm playing this guy, Felix from Sweden. He's amazing. We've been chatting in Discord. We did the pairings together. We had a great time. I'm really excited to play him, and he did not let me down. He was very fun. So we get there, we're deploying, and I'm looking at the table, and there's nowhere to hide. There's just not a lot of space. And I think, okay, that's fine. And I put my wave serpent down and I make a plan. Okay, first turn, this wave serpent's going to YOLO forward. The fire dragons are going to get out. I'm going to try to kill 2 trucks, 1 truck with each fire dragon unit. That is not hard, but I understand the mission, right? Mm-hmm. And then if the wave serpent can charge something to hold it back, ooh. So this is my game plan. I've got the wave serpent ready. Here I go. Now I'm going to put a picture of the table up. This is so funny. Where do I put that up? Oh, over here. Sorry, guys. I haven't done this in a long time. Here we go. Okay. I apologize. Oh, and then I have to hide us. There we go. I apologize for all the blue lines. Felix was really into lines that he could fire. What I want to show you is the black lines in the bottom left-hand corner. This picture is not is cropped weird, but there's another black line on the other side of this bottom left building. Okay. Those black lines in all 3 of the gaps from your deployment zone, this is table quarters that we were playing on. By the way, I'm so dead that this is the Luda's tack reserving in right behind me. Just so we're clear, no, that's how dead I am.
Oh no!
So the Ludas are right there. This is the table. This is the turn where I lost my whole army. But the problem is these black lines, wave serpents, cannot fit through them. They're an inch too wide. Period. End of story. So you think, oh, we'll go up and over. These walls are 5 inches. So that's 10 inches up and over on a model that is like 6 inches long. You have to roll a really good vector engine or advanced to even have a hope of that. And then all you've earned yourself is you're sitting on the other side of the wall. That's what you get. I didn't know this was a thing. I had no idea. And it completely ruined my game plan. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that either. We can deep strike it. Well, I'm getting tabled, so deep striking the wave serpent isn't super helpful. It came in well after it was relevant. I didn't lose the game because of that. I didn't play the game particularly right, but it felt terrible to get to the table, not know how to play the train, and not be able to move my vehicle, right? That felt really bad. So I asked my WTC friends about it, and what several of them said is, oh, you really need to rep WTC terrain with people that know it in singles. Okay, so love it. I love the concept of tables 1 through 8. But my experience of this week is that WTC is just awful for new players. That was my experience. I'm really excited to learn more about it. All my friends are telling me how great it is. I get put into a game with an incredibly helpful person who is actively trying to help me through WTC. And I get to the table. The terrain is very unfun, but more importantly, I don't know that I literally can't use a wave serpent on this table. It's not just those gaps. It's also the gaps where the 2 objectives broke out. You can see the black lines there. Can't go there either. There's literally very little place it can even drive, even if you deploy it. And by the way, there was nowhere to deploy it that he doesn't shoot first turn, if I didn't want it to be behind the wall, where it can't get out of. So that was my experience, Noah. What do you think of that?
That sounds like
You've played a lot of WTC terrain. What?
I have played on a lot of, not as much as Tyler Bertel, but a lot. I think that WTC and UKTC, which is the one they play in like LGT and stuff, are very different. If you're going to an event that is using that kind of terrain, you need to spend time getting reps in on the terrain. I was arrogant one time and thought, I played on GW terrain. It can't be that different. It doesn't look that different. It was very different. My life sucked because of it. It hurt. It was very painful. But the nuances are very different. The first thing about WTC is, someone said this in our car ride. They are, I think Stu Angel said this, is that they are meant to create polarized, high differential games. They are meant to potentially be game unbalancing things because table selection is a thing in WTC. So picking the table, like if your opponent's got a bunch of vehicles that are as wide as wave serpents, picking the table where they can't move is like a legit tactic in WTC, which is one of the reasons why a lot of time large vehicle spam is not a thing that happens very much in WTC. It's also one of the reasons that strats that allow vehicles now to move through walls is a big deal in a lot of things. So yeah, man, I think just WTC terrain, UKTC terrain, if you're going to play on it, understand that it is very different than GW. It plays into very different types of armies. GW likes shooting armies. WTC is UKTC is less favorable to shooting armies. It's more favorable to armies that want to stage up and charge. And you need to get the reps in, understand what you're playing in and how the missions interact with that before you take a list to an event that is using that kind of terrain. You are on mute and I cannot hear you.
I don't have anything against WTC. I think that it was that particular experience was bad.
Yeah, for sure.
But maybe on me for not being prepared. So, by the way, that's one of the new tables that they're just now testing. So I want to be completely fair to WTC. That's not a table they've had for a long time. Felix said they were playing on it. We were playing on it for the first time, and that's why he didn't know that the Wave Serpent doesn't fit back there. Totally fine. Again, no issues with Felix. He was wonderful. For the ugly, Noah, I also have Daka and Ynnari not nerfed.
I guess
so
it's fair.
Like it's just not good for the game. It just isn't. So
I have an anecdote for that.
Okay.
It is going to be potentially unnerfed at Wet Coast at the event I am going to, and that has been and list lock is on Sunday, and so
that's really soon.
And the rules lock is tomorrow.
Oh.
So, however, Dan Miner has said if it gets a nerf after the rules lock, we will likely still use it, and the people who put their list in will have a chance to change the list. I don't know how that's really going to pan out, but I'm basically just operating under the assumption that Daka is going to be unnerfed at the event. I know for a fact 2 good players at least will be taking it. And so I'm currently at a moral quandary. I think I'm just going to take Tide, but I'm at this moral quandary of like, do Daka? But I don't think so. I think
Daka shoot you off the table?
Mathematically, I think so. I have things that do things, right?
Sure.
And if I ever touch
combat, things that do things, I get that.
It's like if I ever make it to combat, I think it's pretty much over. If I can make a combat before losing half my army, I have the jump, so I can like, if they make a mistake with the scouting Gretchen, I can exploit that. I honestly think what I'm probably going to have to do, knowing the Daka is, I'm probably going to have to drop something from my list and take 1 more squad of commandos and run 2 squads of commandos so that I can basically just, if I get first deployment, I can hem them in on their side of the table and be like, hi.
Runes and Rhetoric says, bring Daka. We can pair round one and I can sip coffee and get tabled. I was hanging with Brad Chester at an event after a round, and we were chatting, and he said, and we agreed that both of our favorite time in 40K is after we have won and we're just BSing with our opponent. That's the best time of 40K. I've already done the thing. Now we're just talking about 40K, which I think is really funny. Anywho, okay, on to our main story. I do not just play 40K anymore. Over the past several years, I have played, and when I play something, let's be clear, I buy all the things, I play 100 games of the thing, I read all the rules, I watch all the YouTube videos. I only know how to hyperfixate. I have no other gear for this stuff, right? You too, Noah, right? Yeah. You're going to get into Age of Sigmar, you're going to need to know everything, right?
Right.
So that's how I am. And so I played Old World, which is not super relevant for this conversation because it's wildly different from 40K in basically every strategy way. I played a lot of Old World. I played some Age of Sigmar. I've played probably a dozen games of Kill Team, and I've probably played 200 games of MCP. MCP's fast. I love it. I've played lots of it. So you might think, oh, okay, well, none of that's super relevant to 40K. Actually, it's super relevant to 40K because it takes those, especially the skirmish games. Oh, I also played Outward Realms. Michael Timpey's game was also a alternating activation skirmish game. Oh, and I've played Necromunda too. Lots of games to use this as this example. So what I put together for y'all in some very hokey slides. So that one says, and here your subtitle. Awesome. I made some very hokey slides because I'm making lots of things right now, and I'm not entirely sure how this is all going to work. But I wanted some visual aids for this because what this is about is how I make a decision of what to do in 40K. I don't mean what list to take. I also don't mean I walked up to the table and here's my general game plan of where I go. What I'm talking about is the nuanced decision on every turn of what's most important. And I don't necessarily mean doing the mission. I mean, I have this unit, I have this tool, and I need to use it. How am I going to make the decision of what that tool is going to do? USB, Noah?
Yep.
Cool. Slide number 1. How do I go through these? There we go. 40. This is a thing we all have to appreciate. 40K is inherently complex. I have very smart friends who have given up on it. Like, it's just, this is too long. This is too much to follow. I get it. So many units, so many rules, so many ways to mess up, and you might even fail in deployment. You might deploy your army and get tabled because of it and not even get a game. Fair?
Fair.
Negative. I understand. 40K is also amazing, but you guys all know that already. You're listening to the show. So, by the way, I love that clip art. That man he is so concerned. Yes. I feel that. That's when Eldar are bad, and I'm trying to decide what to take to a tournament. That's what that is.
I feel like he found like a note of personal nature with bad news in a pile of his homework. Like he was studying for like a finals, and he found a Dear John letter. I feel that's what
he got a message. He got a message that the best player in the area is taking DACA to the tournament this weekend. Okay, so here's a picture. This picture is an Eldar mirror. Since the new Eldar Codex has come out, I have played lots of Eldar mirrors. I am on the left. My opponent is on the right. I have 2 units of Wind Riders. I have Warp Spiders. The big unit behind the wall, I should have drawn on this, but the big unit behind the wall is a small unit of Banshees, a giant unit of Banshees, and my Fire Dragons. Okay? Look at this table, and no matter who goes first, what do they do? Wildly violent, fragile armies against each other. I've done the Ynnari mirror too. It's even worse. This is actually aspects, but nonetheless, it's the same thing. So what do? Every single move that you do in this game, in the Eldar mirror, is wildly complicated. There's tons of reactions. There's tons of things that might happen. And there's how hard do I go? How slow do I go? All of that's there. It is the perfect example of a headache game. Perfect example, especially the Ynnari mirror if you both have the Incarn. Anyways, the Incarn is really a frustrating tool until you're killing elves with it. So, complicated setup. We'll come back to it. So here's how I have kind of gone through this, and Noah, I'm really excited to hear what this is like for you. So over the time I've been playing 40K, I started playing Guard at a time where Math Hammer was the thing. And here is the way I made decisions. I have a tank. What is this tank best at killing? It has an anti-tank gun. What tank can I see? I'll shoot that tank because I can see it. That's it. That's the complexity of my decision making. I have these guns. I would like to blow you up with them. Daka, daka, daka. Did you do that at the beginning of 40K too, Noah?
Yeah, I played Tau a lot at the beginning of 40K back in 5th edition. That was very much like, here are my lines. How many things am I going to kill in Overwatch? And
right?
Yeah.
Okay, and we're going to go into each of these in more detail. So maybe I'll do them quickly now, and then we'll talk about each of them. Number 2 is, what thing can they kill that will most protect the rest of my army? We'll talk about that, but the basic idea of that is, if you're playing knights and there are only 3 things on the other side of the table that can hurt knights, it's very obvious what the knight should shoot at, right? We'll talk about that.
Your
Number 3,
Space Marine Lancer.
Yes, exactly. Yes, or the what's the gladiator that has 1 million anti-infantry shots? Is that what it is?
Oh, the Reaper. Yes,
the Reaper. Yeah, very polarized units, right?
No, thank you.
Yeah, and so the third one is, how can you take away their ability to play the game? That's where I've been for the past year or so, but now I'm finding that I'm not doing that at all. I'm doing kind of this micro nuanced individual value versus risk mechanic that I'm doing in my brain. So let's talk about each one. The most interesting one is obviously number 4. We'll get there. Number 1, smash now. What can my thing kill the easiest? We just talked about this. Smash now is how a lot of people play 40K.
And there are some armies that allow it. That still, you can play it that way, right? They're not as much right now, but there are armies that are like, where is the best place to apply my shooting and my gun line stuff? Okay, seems good.
Yeah, anti-infantry shoots infantry.
Also, it's also honestly like firing order, right? Like your firing sequence is one of the fundamental components of 40K, and movement supports the firing order. So it is like pretty normal for that to be where people start.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And one of the ways you can tell if your opponent's at that place is how long they take to think about their turn before they start moving models.
This during the command phase, staring. Did you have a stroke? No, I'm just thinking. Give me a second.
Yeah, right. Michael Timpey used to get out his phone and say, the biggest mistake I make in 40K is not thinking about my turn. So I'm going to take a full 2 minutes on my clock and on my phone to think about my turn. And he'd set a timer and he'd just stand there quietly for 2 minutes.
And I do
And
that all the time.
I do it, but I don't time myself and make myself take time on it. But I will actually say out loud to my opponent, hold on, I have to think about my turn. This is the biggest mistake I make in 40K. Like, I say that out loud, and my opponent goes, oh, okay.
Anyway. Yeah, I have to do that too in Green Tide because I have so many things that can happen in the command phase that impact my score.
Mm-hmm. We're going to come back to this army multiple times. It just happens to be a picture I have of a Space Marine army. Why a Space Marine army? Because people know what they look like.
There's some nice soul drinkers you have there, Colin.
No. These are my Space Marines. So this is a unit of Stern Guard, a unit of Heavy Intercessors, some Blade Guard in the back there with Tiggy. There's a unit of Terminators. There's a repulsor that's got the Stern Guard inside of it and 2 ballistices. This army, if you're looking at it, it only shows you things that are difficult to kill. So if your position is, I'm going to kill the things that are the easiest to kill, this army is going to frustrate you. That's how Marine armies often are. My super durable Terminator unit's going to move over here. You don't have tools to deal with it over there, right? So, moving on. Smash to protect. What do I need to kill to protect my army? So Noah, you're a night player, and you come up to the table, and I let you see some things. What's most important to shoot at in this army? This is Librarius Conclave, if you care.
Yeah, is that an executioner or a regular repulsor?
That's the repulsor that has people inside of it. So It's got the last talon and 1 last cannon. But the army has no rerolls on that thing.
The answer is Stern Guard, Ballistas, and then don't get touched by the Terminators.
Right. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. You have identified that the Ballistas is by far the most dangerous tool against you. You're right. And so if you kill the Ballistases, you increase the chances that your knights live. And by having your knights, you have a much better chance of winning the game because you have more activations and more things that can play 40K, right?
Fuselade Stern Guard are also scary to knights.
That's fair, and that's why they advanced the shoot out of a repulsor, but that's not what's important right now.
No, putting them on the ground is important too, right? Yeah, the demeching, especially when your opponent has something, this is part of that thought process, right? Sometimes the thing that is most dangerous to you is inside of a nice metal box that is protecting it, and you have to now, okay, 2 things. You have to kill that big box, and you have to disable the killing unit, which is one of the reasons transports are so good at 40K.
Yep, exactly right. Okay, number 3, smash specifically. How can I remove their tools to win the game? Okay. All right.
There's mid-table tactics, who we love, who's in the thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, so I'm going to bleep myself. There is they have a 3D printed widget that they give out at their events that says F this unit in particular, and it's for Oath Moment.
Oh. So I think that this is not the best picture for this one. I wish I had put a picture of Eldar up now that I've thought about it. Regularly, I beat people with Eldar because what they are doing is smashing what they think they can smash easiest. No. There's a bunch of games with Eldar where the correct move is to just kill their trash and not die. Nothing more than that. Kill the Rangers, kill the Scorpions, kill the Banshees, kill the Warp Spiders, you win. That's the game. And the reason for that is that Eldar doesn't have that many things that are durable. So if you take away the things that play the mission, that means they have to put their important pieces out to play the mission, and then you kill them.
This is like when people start targeting down my Storm Boys, and I get very upset.
Yeah. And they're 100%. If I had a bunch of direct fire, they are 100% who gets pelted on the first turn.
You did this the times we played.
Oh, with the Tempest launchers that don't do anything?
Yeah. Or even when we were playing with your Death Watch, when you moved your Death Watch into a firing lane, you allocated a specific amount of plasma to kill the Storm Boys.
Yeah. Well, they're fast. They play the mission really well, and they can advance and charge.
And fall
when
back
you
and
want
charge
them
and
to.
have grenades.
Yeah, and so they have grenades. They have a bunch of attacks. No, they're just terrifying against Eldar. But they also play the mission really well, which is what we're actually talking about. So, okay. All right, so here we go. Weighted risk management versus value. Let's get specific. So I've got 15 units in my Eldar army. Let's say that I'm playing against Noah, not on green tide, because that's going to really ruin my example. Let's say that Noah's playing orcs and he's got 3 trucks, and altogether he's got like, would you have less than me? 12, maybe? Would you have more than me? I don't know. Let's say you have 12. Let's just say we both have 12.
The same.
Okay, so we each have 12 things. All right. So on my turn, I have to move, shoot, charge, and fight with my 12 things in a way that helps me win the game and also stops Noah from winning the game and also stops Noah from tabling me. Right? That's a lot for anybody to walk up to the table and say, move your entire army in a way where everything's protected and everything's nuanced and everything's going to win. Right? That thing is why people like Nick Nanavati know what the score is going to be like on turn 3 and turn 4, because they understand that by looking at the whole turn. And I thought I did too. And then I went and played my Marvel Crisis Protocol. I think I have a picture of that here, actually. Nope, not that one. There we go. Here's Marvel Crisis Protocol. This is a picture from the internet. Whoever took this picture, I'll put their credit. So this is a picture of Marvel Crisis Protocol. Each team has like 10 dudes. I think they just have 10 dudes. That's just the way it is. Okay. And you pick a certain number of power level of those 10 dudes for a particular game based on the mission. Cool. So you're going to end up with somewhere between 5 and 8 people, let's say. 8 being massive spam, 5 being super elite. So on your turn, you have, let's say Noah and I now both have 7 things, but each thing is 1 dude. Okay. Now, alternating activations is how most of these skirmish games work. And what that means is at the beginning of the battle round, if I have priority or initiative, whatever you want to call it, I'm going to move a guy. And usually in a game like MCP, I have 2 actions. I can shoot a thing twice. I can move and shoot. I can shoot and move, things like that. So I have my 8 things, and Noah has his 8 things, and I have 16 things total I can do, 2 with each person. Noah's got 16 things total he can do. So I want to move my first thing. Okay. It is extremely easy at that point on a table that is much smaller than 40K, I think they're 4x4, to say, if I move this guy too far forward, I'm in range of Noah's things. Very easy to figure out. Noah doesn't have that many things. They don't have that many rules. They have ranges on them. It's all very straightforward, right? So I can make that decision right then. Later in the round, it starts happening where I say, I haven't moved Spider-Man yet. He's on the building, if you're wondering. But Noah's already done Black Widow, who's standing next to Spider-Man, right? That means that I could move somebody else up next to Spider-Man and have help with Black Widow without worrying that Black Widow, who's one of the least scary people in the entire game, is going to attack me. And the reason I know that is because Black Widow has already gone in the round. So I'm now making an incredibly low risk move because of that thing that's already happened. Okay. So in MCP, you start asking yourself, okay, Hulk has already gone, one of the scariest people in the game. So Hulk's done for the round. I can now move around and do stuff without worrying about Hulk coming and smashing me. Now, like most skirmish games, the next round, your opponent might go first. And so one of the units might get to go before you. That's part of the risk. I love this as a practiced technique for understanding action and reaction in a war game, because there's less things, they have less rules, and there's less actual things to keep an eye out for. So the Hulk has a specific range he can go, and he has some extra tech. So he can jump himself. So he can, I think it's called Gamma Leap. He can jump himself and then still move. So he gets that extra movement to consider, right? So there's these things to consider. How am I going to kill the Hulk? If I get too close to the Hulk and he hasn't gone yet, I'm going to lose the piece that went after the Hulk. Very, very straightforward. Noah, does this resonate with you so far? I know you've already connected it to 40K, but the audience is not there, maybe not there yet. So,
well, it's more than that. It's so I didn't realize I've had a weird week, so I did not ramp up too much on what you're going to talk about today.
No, of course
I
not.
looked
You
at
were supposed to.
But I have an entire presentation conversation I give that is very similar to this, but comes at a different line because where I started it is in Magic. And
Sure.
so the concept of lines, the thing that I'm going to do to achieve a thing, and the concept of play patterns. If I do a thing, then my opponent does a thing, and if that happens, then I do this. Very similar to like chess, where you have a finite number of movements and you can see the whole thing play out. Understanding play patterns and understanding how your lines trigger different play patterns, I think, is one of the highest level abilities in any game, period. And it's one of the things that once you, even I think at the beginning levels of it, starting to think about it, immediately up levels you from like basic player to a slightly higher than your current skill level, even if you don't have a higher mastery of the actual game.
Yeah, I think so. You're talking about more nuanced stuff than this, but I'm going to give you a super basic example because I was highly competitive at Magic in 1999.
Sure.
So I was like win all the tournaments in the area in 1999. So an example of this is you've got eight cards in your deck that are absolutely paramount key to the way your deck functions, and your opponent has 4 counter spells in their deck. This is to me, that's the perfect example of this, because you know that they're there, but you don't know if they're in their hand. So you're trying to bait them out without actually giving them the thing. Hey, guess what? That's 40K. Just in case anyone's wondering. All right, so let's apply what we just talked about to 40K. Here is a Ynnari table, because that's what I'm mostly playing. I'm playing Deathwatch. On the first turn of the game, I ran my Scorpions up. They've grabbed the Rhino in the upper right-hand corner, which is a rude thing that Scorpions do. And he's got some stuff in Deep Strike, some Proteus Kill Team stuff he's going to drop. And he's got the heavy, that bottom right-hand corner thing, that's the like super heavy unit. I can't think of what it's called, but the Eradicators and Aggressors and their heavy friends. So look at how I'm positioned, okay? I am positioned so that the only things that can get killed are the Scorpions, either unit of Scorpions, the Fire Dragons in the middle of the table who don't have anything to do because he doesn't have vehicles, or the 5-man Banshee. Those are the 3 things that I've exposed, right? The Wind Riders are set up for Overwatch. The Wind Riders are set up for Ynnari move. The Wind Riders are set up to death knell and destroy my opponent. I am set up to win here. And the reason that I'm set up to win here is because on my turn, when I moved each unit of Wind Riders, I thought the following. What does this unit need to do next turn? That's a really big deal in Eldar. These things move fast. They're fragile as hell, but they shoot like crazy. And in the way I play Eldar, the 24-inch super accurate shooting is completely critical to the way I play Eldar. So they have to stay alive. They're the most important things in my army. More than the Incarn, more than the Banshees. I'm telling you that these are the things that I have to keep alive in a lot of games. So when I move the Wind Riders, here's what I'm going through. What are they going to do this turn? Is it valuable? Ideally, they'd like to kill something, but they also have OC2, so that's a thing that they could do. And they also are fast, so they could go do something like containment. So there's multiple things they could do. And then I have to think, well, okay, but containment is not their best job. It's not where they're most valuable. So what are they going to kill a thing? And if they're going to kill a thing, what is the thing that they're killing? How important is it to kill it? And then what will be the reprisal on that unit? And I do that with every single unit in my army on every turn. Every single time I move any unit, I think about the broader strategy. I think about the individual strategy and value of that unit's activation. And then I think about what they're going to accomplish. Now, here's where it gets tricky. I don't think about what they're going to accomplish. I think about what they're likely to accomplish. Because you don't know, right? You can set up things to shoot and your opponent can roll 4 pinfalls. So that's where risk management comes in. If I knew that the only things in my army at the end of my turn that were going to be shootable were Fire Dragons, Scorpions, and Banshees, then my game is easy. I can just plan that every turn. But I don't know that, because I don't know if I'm going to move my pieces out and they're going to do the things that they need to do. So at every point, I'm making all of these, I'm thinking through all of these things. I'm measuring the range on my opponent. I'm making sure that his stuff can't, I'm making sure the Wind Riders can't get charged. Anyone who charges them, General Marines, deca, dead Wind Riders. Like anybody that charges them is going to kill them, and they don't have fallback and shoot. So there's tons of measuring that. I don't even want you to get it if you roll an 11 on the charge. I'm not even comfortable with that. I am going to be 12.1 inches past range. somebody is calling me like crazy, and I don't know why. I'm going to just look at this really quick and make sure this isn't something important because they've called multiple times in a row. Okay. Don't know who that is. So that's how I kind of think about it on a turn-by-turn basis. What's this like for you, Noah?
Yeah, so I think it's a little different, but I think one thing that goes in is you specifically called out where does this unit need to be, and where does it need to be next turn. One thing I found
really
is that this process of I do this, they do this, I need to do this, what will happen if they do this, has so many potential possibilities that you need to like start your like base of your game from minimizing the potential negative possibilities that could start from the beginning, right?
Oh, I like that.
So because of that, I know every single place I deploy on every single map of terrain in WTC and GW with my current army because I have mapped it out a bunch of times, and it's mapped out very particularly. So, for instance, my Storm Boys almost always on the table, and they always deploy on the far flanks, and where they are exactly far enough that the rear model of the deployment behind a wall can move 12 inches and end just outside my deployment zone within 9 inches of a non-deployment zone board edge, so I can do containment. And usually one of those units is also within range that can move 12 inches and put a toe near the center middle of the table to do things like cleanse on the middle objective or area denial, etc. Right?
Sure.
This is for every single unit in my army. And while not everyone has the time to starting your base knowing that, hey, I know that where I deploy, regardless of what my secondaries are, if it's a secondary that is possible to be done turn one, I will be able to do it. Lets you start with this idea of what do I have to worry about my opponent is going to do? And then also, have I made it so that my opponent can't stop me from doing these particular things? That gives you a really nice breathing space to start reacting to the chaos of the game as it starts.
Yeah,
right?
I agree. I think that it's here's a fair statement. When playing against Colin, the only things you're going to get to kill on the first turn are the things that he put out in the open to hold you back. Like, I do not get shot on the first turn. That's just, I'm not willing. Like, even if you're unlikely to kill my things, it is still very hard for me to deploy in the open. I literally feel pain doing it. So, like, when I'm playing against an army that has no shooting and the Wind Rider's going to start in the open and get ready to Overwatch, it makes me uncomfortable. Like, it doesn't feel right. So I hide things, and I hide them real well, even if it's going to hold that unit back from being relevant for an additional turn. Because the way that I see 40K is that my units have a particular amount of activation efficiency, and if you remove them and I can't do things, I lose. Pretty straightforward, right? So this is complicated. So let's make it a little bit simpler for people. I'd have more pictures than this. Oh, I don't have more pictures than this. Lies. Let's go back to this picture. Okay, now let's talk about this in a more applicable manner. By the way, if you've ever played on this table, that top wave serpent can drive up and throw Dark Reapers through that wall, and then they can see everything back there. Just should anybody be wondering. It's really gross and unpleasant, and I don't like it.
I know it well.
What's that?
Said I know it well.
It's so gross. So I've done a couple things here. The first thing that I did is acknowledged that he has warp spiders and he can ignore Overwatch. I can't do anything about that. So what I have to do is make sure that any one unit coming in and ignoring Overwatch isn't going to kill me. Okay. So I've deployed my army, and each unit is being covered by an Overwatch. Interestingly, the middle unit doesn't look like it is, but having been the one playing the game, there are 3 units of warp spiders, and they're supposed to be covering each section. I don't know where that unit is. So the idea there is they send in a unit of warp spiders, okay, and they shoot my warp spiders. Now, here's a funny fact. If I'm -1 to wound on that warp spider unit, it is very unlikely that they kill me. That's just the math. So then what's going to happen is I'm going to spend 1 CP and shoot the remaining warp spiders back at anything I want and kill anything he brought in, even if it was supposed to ignore Overwatch. So what I've done there is I've said I can't deploy safely against him. Can't do it. It's not possible. So how do I make sure I'm going to get value out of this? If he warp spiders forward and he kills fire dragons, fine. He has 2 wave serpents. It will work out okay. He warp spiders forward. He kills some banshees. Okay, all right. Like I have to think about it that way. Here's the big thing: the Wind Riders are too far away and out of angle for a 26-inch move warp spider to get to them. I deployed them after the warp spiders were on the table with that 100% in mind, because that's a trade I'm unwilling to make. And honestly, they have a 4-up save. It would be a 5-up. They're T4. Like it might not even be the end of the world if the warp spiders don't roll well, but it's still not okay. I went first in this game. Actually, my opponent went first, and then I went first. We played it both ways. And so on my first turn, I had to decide, what can I really do? And all I did was push up and get behind the walls and just wait, right? Because I had the ability to say, on this first turn, I can score a bunch of points, and more importantly, position my opponent in a bad way without risking my stuff. Okay, that's one way that the turn could go. Another way that the turn can go is that all 3 of the warp spider units can go 24. I can accept that one of them gets overwatched, and I can kill as many elves as I want. So how many elves am I going to kill? Which elves am I going to kill? The warp spiders then die. Is that okay? It's probably not. Their movement is really important to how Eldar works. So I won this matchup. Actually, I think he won it the first time because I didn't deploy correctly against the Dark Reapers coming through the wall. Hadn't seen that before. But we re-racked and we played it again. And what I found was the Eldar Mirror is not hard. If you think about it as, if I'm that player, what do I need to kill to ruin that player's game plan? That's it. And so with each unit, I can think of it this way. How am I stopping his game plan while not throwing this unit away? Or if I'm throwing this unit away, is the value worth it? That's my thinking, Noah.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. I think before, when we were talking about saying that, like I was saying, think about things on like lines and play patterns. The other concept for me, it's like to triumvirate. It's lines, play patterns, and trades. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing I always say about trades, and I think trades really go into like this decision process you're talking about, is when you make a trade in anything, whether it's me trading you a card or you trading me, or we trading models on the table with activations, it's based on each of us assessing the value of the trade. Mm-hmm. And the goal is for me to make you want to make a trade that is bad for you and good for me, where I get the higher value. Mm-hmm. And the hope is that you have assessed the value of that trade incorrectly.
Yep.
So with any trade, there is a right trade. There's someone who wins the trade and someone who loses the trade. Both players, when they make the trade, will usually think that's them. Mm-hmm. And whoever was right tends to be the person who wins that interaction. And if you're the one who's right the most, you also usually win the game. Yep. And so the evaluation, you do a really good job, since you know your other so much, making the evaluation of, is this trade well enough? You caught it right there when you said, I could jump through this wall and shoot them with all of my warp spiders, but then I might lose my warp spiders, and the movement's very important to the game. So even if you took away X number of squads of Eldar, did you actually just make a good trade, or did you actually trade into a deficit in the long term?
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. And here's the big thing that I'll say about this that's a very common pet peeve for me. I do not give a rat's patootie how many points your things cost. That simply does not matter to the game. Your thing's overcosted, your thing's who cares? And why I'm saying this is people are like, well, my 75-point unit killed your 110-point units. That's a good trade for me. No, that is not how 40K works. It simply doesn't matter. Think about Noah's example with Knights. Noah's going to kill the 140-point, 130-point, whatever they are, ballistas first. Right? He's not going to kill the 400-point Terminator unit first, even though it's the most expensive thing. It's the most expensive thing because it's also really durable and difficult to kill. So I think that's a great point. Against Eldar, this is a perfect example. You might be able to do lopsided points-wise trades if you're removing the right tools from the Eldar list. Because in a lot of matchups, if you kill my Rangers and my Scorpions and my Warp Spiders, I can't play the mission anymore, and you're just going to win. So that's kind of how I see it. Yeah, that's how I see it. No, I shared the thing.
Yeah, I think this is great. I think the fundamentals I think that you're highlighting here are there are strategies that you're going to have, which are
Mhm.
effectively like, so there's what you're trying to achieve, which is your macro strategy, right?
Yep.
Like that's the strategy of the game. Then there is the ways that you can achieve specific minor parts of that plan, which is your lines. My line is I have these tools. I use this tool to do things. That's a line, right? A line is
Yep.
a course of actions you take with an item or resource you have.
Sure.
Then you have play patterns, which is good talking about is if I do this, you do this, and what precipitous effect it has on the game. And then inside of all those micro interactions you have trade valuation where it comes down to is this trade does this trade work out long term for me, and is this
Right.
the right decision that leads to other potential better lines and play patterns. And I think
Mhm.
you put it really well in that way of like in MCP when it comes down to I have a small number of things. There's a finite number of things they could potentially do. Um,
Yeah.
being able to fit all of those things in your head in 40K is really hard.
Very.
So I think one of the biggest things skills to do what you're talking about is knowing which things to just throw out. Right? There are
Yep.
some things that like are just good for you if they do, so don't worry about those. There are some things that are very unlikely that they would do. You have to consider them, but probably spend less time on them. And you need to focus on the most likely highest return things by knowing the answer in your list of I know what my opponent has. What is the scariest thing in my list for them? What are the
Mhm.
things that I need to play the mission? What are the things that I don't want them to do? And how do I then set myself up to achieve my goal while minimizing the things I know they want to do?
Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, I think that's great. I think that does it well. It's funny. You kept saying line. And I was thinking, I went to my first NHL game last week, which was, by the way, really fun. And and I learned that in the NHL, the teams have like 5 lines of players, and the players shift in and out like every minute. So your players go in and they play as hard as they possibly can for a minute, and then they leave, and someone else comes. So everybody's sprinting the whole time. I had no idea. I think that's super interesting. So I was thinking about that strategically because it isn't exactly a minute. They're shifting at different times based on strategy. Power plays. I don't know hockey. There's already people that are mad that I'm making this comparison. I really like that I have these tools. I've practiced these tools together. I know that Noah and Chuck and Steve are going to go out together because they're line number 2. So they've worked together. I understand what their strengths are. I understand what their weaknesses are. And I know the same thing about the other team. So how do I get mismatches? I presume it's part of the strategy. I don't actually know. But I like that. I like that concept of I have these tools. And when they go as hard as they possibly can until they're dead. And then they come out. Right.
Yep.
I really like that. So just the thing I was thinking about as you were talking.
I mean, it feels like teams, right? And trades also feel like teams. The
Yeah.
the whole thing about team pairing is trying to set up favorable trades.
Yes. Yep. Yep. Okay. That's our show, really.
Let's
Maybe
go.
Noah will come up with a topic he wants to teach us about and sometime soon. I would really like
Yeah,
that.
I'll come up
Yeah.
with one for next week.
Oh, great. Yeah. So Noah's the topic for next week.
I'll
I'm
figure it out.
super excited about that. I'd like to remind you all that on Monday nights at 7 o'clock is our Rogue Trader campaign. If you're a role-playing game fan at all, you're going to love it. If you liked the video game, you're going to love it. If you like me, you're probably going to like it because my sense of humor is literally draped all over it.
Cool.
So if you think I'm funny, and some people, there's like a small percentage of people that really do, they should absolutely watch. So that's going to be Mondays from 7 to 9. I'm really excited. I'm sourcing some really cool stuff. We're going to have some later on. We'll probably have some Chuck beautiful custom kit bashes that are showing up. I'm probably going to have to borrow stuff from Noah at some point. It's going to be really fun. Then on Wednesdays, you have this show. And next week, we're going to have Teacher Noah teach us something. And then on Thursday of this week is the first episode of Better Human, Better Gamer, where I'm going to talk about being called a cheater and having part of the community attack me, which is going to be a really great topic. It caused soul searching and made me change my life. So I'm excited to share that story. I don't know what night, or I think that show will move around. I don't think it's going to be on the same time every week. Okay, that's what we got going on. If you are enjoying this, please leave a comment, like and subscribe. Do all the things you're supposed to do. You can find us in all the places: the YouTube, the podcast, the TikTok, the Instagram, the Facebook, which I think are basically the same thing now. So it seems like it. Anywho, okay, so that's what we've got. He's Noah Badome, and I'm Colin Sherman, because someone has to be, and we will be back next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.